America's Old West is a time of lawlessness and violence, where aggressive individuals rely on quick wits, sharp shooting skills to survive. Among the legendary figures of that era, one name stands out for its lightning-quick reflexes and deadly accuracy: Dallas Stoudenmire. Renowned as the fastest shooter in the Wild West, Stoudenmire made his name in history with his bravery and mastery of gunplay. His most infamous feat, the 4 dead in 5 seconds gunfight, would forever cement his place as one of the Wild West's most legendary gunfighters. Dallas Stoudenmire, a notable Old West figure, defied standards as both an accomplished gunman and a lawman. During his life, Stoudenmire was involved in more gunfights than most of his better-known counterparts, such as Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, Elfego Baca, Luke Short, Doc Holliday, and John Selman. He is credited with successfully taming one of the most violent towns in the Old West.
Born on December 11, 1845, in Aberfoyle, Alabama, Dallas was one of 9 children born to Louis and Elizabeth Stoudenmire. In 1862, he joined the Union Army's 45th Alabama Infantry Regiment, serving in the volatile landscape of the Old West, where he was wounded multiple times and bore the scars of 2 bullets for the rest of his life. After the war ended, around 1867, Dallas began moving to Columbus, Texas, where he originated. Standing at an impressive 6 feet 4 inches tall, he possesses an alluring charisma that makes him popular with ladies, who are drawn to his handsome and well-dressed looks. However, underneath his elegant appearance, Dallas hides a volatile, hot temper, especially when drinking. During his time in Columbus, Dallas dedicated himself to honing his shooting skills, diligently practicing with both hands and always carrying a pair of guns. In addition to his pursuit of marksmanship, he was engaged in various occupations, including sheep herding, carpentry, construction, and trading. Then the path of Dallas Stoudenmire led him to join the Texas Rangers, where in 1874 he served as second sergeant in the company of J.R. Waller. He then briefly resided in the Texas Panhandle and ventured to Mexico during the days of Maximilian rule, serving briefly as field marshal in Socorro, New Mexico. During his time in Socorro, his brother-in-law, Doc Cummings, of El Paso, Texas, convinced him to move there and take on the role of field marshal. El Paso, notorious for its lawlessness, was looking for an outsider to establish order, and Stoudenmire seemed the perfect fit. In early April 1881, Dallas arrived in El Paso and wasted no time, beginning his new position on April 11th. Notably, he became the town's 6th town governor in just 8 months. His initial assignment is to get the city prison key from a deputy sheriff who happens to be drunk in town. Bill Johnson, the deputy, in a drunken stupor, said he would return home to determine the right key. However, growing impatient, Stoudenmire insisted on possessing the key immediately. As Johnson continued to delay, Dallas forcefully overturned him, retrieved the key, and threw him to the ground. Demonstrating his solid reputation, Stoudenmire quickly asserted his authority, much to Johnson's humiliation. Just 3 days later, Dallas Stoudenmire took part in one of Texas' most famous gunfights, known as 4 dead in 5 seconds. On April 14, 1881, a fiery conflict raged in the infamous Keating's Saloon, a hotbed of lawlessness in El Paso. Constable Krimpkaw got into an argument with George Campbell, the former city sheriff. Drunk and unarmed, Campbell's accomplice, John Hale, snatched one of Campbell's pistols, exclaiming, "George, I protected you." Hale then shoots Krimpkaw, wounding him as he desperately seeks refuge by banging on the pub door. Witnessing the chaos unfolding, Dallas Stoudenmire appeared, armed with his pistol, just as Hale sought cover behind a nearby column. Stoudenmire fired a shot, but unfortunately the bullet deflected, hitting an innocent Mexican bystander. As Hale ventured out of his hiding spot, Stoudenmire quickly resumed shooting, expertly aiming between Hale's eyes, instantly taking his life. Meanwhile, Campbell, witnessing Hale's death, leaves the pub, brandishing his gun and shouting, "Gentlemen, this is not my fight." However, the wounded Krimpkow vehemently protested, retaliated by shooting Campbell, wounding his wrists and toes. At the same time, Stoudenmire turned his attention and fired 3 bullets into Campbell's stomach. Kneeling down the dusty road, Campbell shouted in a shrill voice, "You scoundrel, you killed me." When things settled down, both George Campbell and Constable Krimpkow died. In a puzzlingly short period of less than 5 seconds, 4 people were killed, making the gunfight an almost comical sight. Just 3 days later, on April 17th, a new incident of violence hit the streets. This time, the influential Manning brothers, allies of Hale and Campbell, persuaded the drunken Bill Johnson to carry out a plot to assassinate Stoudenmire. However, still hampered by the recent humiliation inflicted upon him by Stoudenmire, Johnson is still hesitant to carry out their plan of betrayal. Seeking cover behind a large brick pillar, armed with a shotgun, Johnson waited for his chance. Moments later, he recognized the voices of Stoudenmire and his brother-in-law, Stanley "Doc" Cummings. As he tried to aim his weapon, his legs began to wobble and he fell backwards, accidentally firing both projectiles into the air. Stoudenmire quickly pulled out a pistol and shot Johnson, ending his life. Furious, the Mannings determined to avenge their fallen comrades. Meanwhile, Stoudenmire resolutely took a zero-tolerance stance against the lawless raging in the city of El Paso. From the time Johnson was killed to the following February, Dallas killed 6 more men in shootings during arrests. The city's crime rate dropped dramatically. Stoudenmire's reputation as both a lawman and a gunman was growing. In February 1882, Dallas made the short journey back to his hometown of Columbus, Texas, where he married Isabella Sherrington. During his absence, however, a tragic event occurred on February 14th. James Manning, owner of the Coliseum Saloon, where both Manning and Stoudenmire's brother-in-law, Stanley "Doc" Cummings, were present. The two started arguing. The dispute quickly escalated, turning the atmosphere of the pub into a gunfight. Hit by bullets, Cummings staggered out of the pub, falling onto the dusty road as he screamed in pain and died. Manning faced arrest, but in the ensuing trial it was determined that he acted in self-defense. The jury, which included local residents, many of whom were friends with Manning, acquitted him. The news caused a furious rage in the Stoudenmires. Enraged, he sought solace by drinking heavily and frequently confronting those he believed were responsible for Manning's acquittal. The situation became so tense that many chose to avoid venturing into town or going to the pubs for fear of encountering Stoudenmire. Despite his demonstrated legal acumen, his actions began to lose favor with the local community. Furthermore, as a newcomer to a town where Manning boasts many friends, matters are more complicated. By May 27, 1882, the townspeople's exasperation had reached its peak, prompting the council to issue a resolute announcement of its intention to fire the sheriff. However, when Stoudenmire, drunk, confronted them and challenged them to take his gun or his job, they quickly retreated. Just 2 days later, a sober Stoudenmire resigned voluntarily. He then went on to manage Globe Restaurant, a business formerly owned by his late brother-in-law, Doc Cummings. In July, he also assumed the role of Deputy Marshal of the United States. However, this did not quell his tendency to settle disputes with guns, perpetuating a lingering feud with the Manning brothers. The hostility was so deep that the townspeople forced Stoudenmire and Mannings to publicly declare a peace treaty, posted in the El Paso Herald. Unfortunately, whenever Dallas got drunk, his threats continued, casting a dark shadow over the fragile truce. On September 18, 1882, Stoudenmire and the Manning brothers, Doc, Frank, and Jim, met at a local pub to make what they called a peace treaty to end their feud. It didn't take long, however, for tensions to reemerge between Doc and Dallas, rekindling their argument over the original peace treaty. In the blink of an eye, Manning and Stoudenmire pulled out their pistols and fired. Stoudenmire's friend tried to push both men, causing Stoudenmire to lose his balance, and Doc's bullet lodged in Stoudenmire's left arm. The second bullet lodged in Stoudenmire's shirt pocket, where papers were kept. Although it didn't penetrate his skin, the strong impact pushed him backwards, smashing him against the pub's door, eventually sending him into the street. Under the circumstances, Dallas, known for his ability to shoot with two hands, quickly grabbed his remaining gun and fired at Doc as he walked through the door, hitting him in the arm. James Manning, from behind Stoudenmire, fired twice. One hit the barber's post, and the other hit behind Stoudenmire's left ear, killing him. After the tragic death of the sheriff, James and Doc Manning were tried for murder, but acquitted, again with the jury mostly being their friends. Stoudenmire's funeral was held at the Masonic Lodge in El Paso. His wife, Isabella, later shipped his body to Columbus for a burial. All funeral expenses were paid by Masonic Lodge. Stoudenmire is buried at Alleyton Cemetery in Colorado County, Texas.
Please like and share if you find the video content interesting and useful. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and comment below so as not to miss the upcoming interesting videos. Thanks for watching.